In the Middle Ages, incubus raids were quite common. They came at night, took the form of men, sometimes familiar to the woman. It was not easy to get rid of such suitors. In medieval Europe, the image of the devil was formed. The enemy of the human race was described with the head of a goat, or with the horns of a goat. Could appear completely in the image of this animal. It is not surprising that incubi were also described in similar guises. Among other things, these demonic entities could take the form of various animals and, of course, people. Incubus came to women, accordingly took the guises of men. Two men were succubus. In the Middle Ages, actively discussed the question of how incubi come into contact with women. After all, we are talking about demonic spirits. Demonologists and ministers of the church entered into long discussions on this subject. Thus, were formed known theories about how incubi get physical bodies. Some demonologists believe that the demon is able to form its own physical body. There are theories that a demonic entity is instilled into a person's body. Such a theory was very popular in the Middle Ages, and rites to exorcise demons were held constantly. In addition, there was a very popular version of the theory that the demonic spirit is all in the body of the deceased, hence the idea that the dead rise from their graves and roam the earth. Most often, demons entered the bodies of those who died a wrong death and suicides. Superstitious people considered incubus entities without flesh, who took male form in the dark time of day. The debate over whether demons could have descendants continued well into the Middle Ages. And not just the Middle Ages. Demonologists have not come to a consensus on this issue. Hammer of Witches is a medieval magical treatise. It pays attention to the offspring of incubi. If we believe the texts of this book, incubi and succubus are one demonic entity. First, the demonic entity in the form of a succubus comes to a man and enters into a relationship with him. The body of the demonic entity is capable of preserving the man's seed. When the demonic entity takes the form of an incubus, it impregnates the woman. But then why is the offspring of demons considering a stronghold of evil? If we refer to the Hammer of the Witches, the explanation is simple. Incubus impregnates a woman in a period favorable for the formation of negative traits in the future child. Simply put, astrological predictions help demons to generate evil. Other demonologists have also pointed to seed gathering. Allegedly, incubi harvest the seed of men and use it for fertilization. Thus, incubi had to wander to places of nocturnal pleasures or engage in collecting seed from corpses to obtain the necessary material. The offspring of incubi was described as a negative phenomenon, sometimes even in the images of worms and worms. A child born of an incubus was believed to be characterized by cruelty. Such people bring only evil into the world. In some texts, such a person must be ugly. In other texts, he is, on the contrary, very attractive. In the Middle Ages, incubi were often blamed for paternity. It was a way for women to cover up their adulteries, telling stories about incubi taking images of their husbands. As we can see, demonologists did not even allow the idea that incubi can independently conceive a child. After all, they are spirits. However, if we remember the popular myth of the fallen angels, those actively entered into relations with earthly women, and their descendants are called giants. But why do demons have such an interest in earth women? And why do they need offspring? Demonologists and here do not agree. Some are convinced that the interest in earth women have arisen in demons because of their perversion, plus they're passionate, who realize their own fantasies with the help of such connections with earthly women. Other demonologists were of the opinion that incubus contact with earthly women to humiliate them. Allegedly, such unions can be painful and not infrequently bring mental anguish. In the Middle Ages, women not infrequently admitted to connections with incubi, but they were in no hurry to get rid of such admirers. Thus, women fell in love with their incubus and stopped living a real life. Hence the theory that incubi feed on the energy of their victims. The incubus sucks out the strength, the victim becomes attached to him and stops resisting. She becomes estranged from loved ones, ceases to be interested in the world around her, and becomes withdrawn into herself. There is another version explaining the interest of incubi in earthly women. Allegedly, They are attracted to the human soul, or rather its immortality. After all, according to many demonologists and ministers of the church, demons do not have souls. So, they're trying to give souls to their descendants through alliances with humans. In any case, romances with incubi and succubus were not encouraged. It was believed that a relationship with a demonic entity is a much more serious offense than adultery,